Bah wah, that's all I could make out. You know that muffled, nonsensical way adults talk in the Charlie Brown movies? Yeah, that's how my wife's voice sounded to me just then. My hearing had checked out about 5 minutes ago, replaced by a thunderous roar in my ears as my blood boiled with anger. I could feel the tension in my knuckles, my fists clenched so tightly on the table they'd gone white. Across from me, I could see my wife's lips moving, trying to explain herself, but her words didn't register anymore. 15 minutes earlier, I'd come home from work, my usual Friday routine. I was looking forward to a cold beer, some relaxation, and starting the weekend with my wife. But, as they say, the best-laid plans often go awry. Sure, I got the beer. Ida set it down on the kitchen table as soon as I walked in, but the rest of my evening? Not so much. That's when she hit me with 5 little words. Darling, we need to talk. Before diving into what happened next, let me give you some context. My name's James Carter. I'm 28, working a solid job in IT consulting, and I've got a master's in computer science. Physically, I'm in decent shape, 180 centimeters tall, about 90 kilos, chestnut hair and eyes. I stick to a routine, gym daily, an 8-kilometer morning run, and people tell me I've got a face that's easy on the eyes. My wife, Idella, or Ida as everyone calls her, is 2 years younger than me. She's 165 centimeters, curvy yet fit, with shoulder-length blonde hair, striking blue eyes, and a figure that could turn heads. She's got a slim waist, toned legs, and, well, the rest of her is equally stunning. We met at a college party back when she was studying accounting, and I was in grad school. The chemistry was instant, and we dated until we tied the knot a year after graduation. But Ida has this trait. She doesn't always think through the full consequences of her decisions, especially when she feels strongly about something. A perfect example? When we got married, she insisted on hyphenating her last name instead of taking mine outright. It wasn't just about feminism for her, it was about making a statement. She argued endlessly, bringing up examples of successful women and pointing fingers at the patriarchy. I tried reasoning with her, even explaining that it wasn't about control. Eventually, I wrote out the hyphenated version for her to read aloud. Ida Mastersbader. 5 repetitions later, she burst out laughing and dropped the idea. Yeah, she's a natural blonde, in every sense of the word. Fast forward to today, we've been married almost 5 years. No kids yet, though we'd started planning. Our anniversary was coming up in 2 months, and the idea was to make that night special, the start of trying for a family. Until now, we'd used protection since birth control pills didn't agree with her. That made our plans for the anniversary feel even more significant. A milestone in our marriage. But back to tonight. There I was, beer in hand, sitting at the table, stunned into silence as Ida uttered those 5 devastating words. I need to tell you something. She launched into an explanation, something about wanting to try something different before settling down. My anger boiled over. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice rising. You want to date other men? Even sleep with them, while we're still married? And you expect me to be okay with this? It's not like that, she insisted. It's just for a month or so, Jamesert. I need to get this out of my system before we have kids. After that, we'll have our anniversary night and I'll settle down. I promise. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So, it's not cheating because you're telling me in advance? That's your logic, I asked, practically yelling. And you think sleeping with other men will somehow help our marriage? Well, she replied hesitantly, it's not cheating if you're aware of it. Besides, Lily said, Lily? I interrupted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You mean your 4 times divorced coworker who's cheated on every husband she's had? You're taking advice from her. Ida defended Lily, claiming this experiment would make her a better mother and wife, free from regrets. She even suggested it might spice up our intimacy. I realized then that Ida wasn't looking for my approval. She'd already made up her mind. All right, I said, forcing calm into my voice. If you're set on this, you won't be doing it from our home. What do you mean? She asked, eyes wide. This house is mine. My parents gifted it to me before we got married. If you leave tonight, you're not coming back. She scoffed, dismissing my words as empty threats. But as she left, dolled up for a night out with Lily, I was already setting my plan in motion. I'd bought new locks earlier that day, and within hours, her key would be useless. I wasn't about to sit idly by while she treated our marriage like a revolving door. What she didn't know was that I'd installed tracking apps on her phone. As she rode off with Lily, their conversation was already being recorded. There was no going back now for either of us. After removing her garage remote and reprogramming the door opener, I packed up all her clothes, toiletries, and makeup into the boxes I had prepared in advance. By the time I finished loading everything into her car, it was about 2 hours later. With the house quiet again, I decided it was time to listen to her conversation with Lily. "God, he's furious," Ida said, sounding exasperated. "Of course he is," Lily replied nonchalantly. "I warned you he'd be mad for a while, but trust me, it'll pass. Just make sure the sex with him is phenomenal over the next few days. Once he sees how much better it is, he'll come around. Men are like dogs. Throw them a treat, and they'll do whatever you want. Use that sexual key wisely, girl." Ida hesitated. "I just hope the guy you're setting me up with tonight doesn't leave me too exhausted to handle James tomorrow." "Relax," Lily said with a laugh. "Take a nice soak in the bath tomorrow morning. It'll ease any soreness. Oh, and lose the panties before we get there. You won't need them tonight." Ida chuckled, her tone smug. "To take them off, I'd have to be wearing them in the first place." They both laughed, and I could feel my stomach churn. Let me give you a picture of Lily. She's a petite 162 centimeters of fiery red-headed chaos. Her waist-length red hair, emerald green eyes, and angelic face might fool you, but she's got the morals of an alley cat on a bender. At just 26, she's already been divorced 4 times, all due to her cheating. I'll admit, she's beautiful, but she's trouble with a capital T. She'd even made it clear that her bed was always open to me, should I ever feel inclined. I never acted on it, but not for lack of offers. This wasn't the first time Lily had tried to talk Ida into some harebrained scheme. Usually, it was something equally outrageous, often involving attempts to drag us into her lifestyle. So far, I'd managed to steer clear. But this time, she'd succeeded in dragging Ida down her rabbit hole. I kept listening as they arrived at the club, but the noise made it impossible to pick up anything useful. Switching gears, I opened my online banking app and got to work. First, I withdrew half the funds from our joint account, then paid off and canceled all our shared credit cards. I moved our savings into an offshore account I'd opened years ago, transferred 70% of our investments into an account under my name, and left just enough in our joint accounts to keep appearances up. A quick glance at Ida's GPS location showed her on the move. I reactivated the microphone on her phone. Sure enough, I could hear her chatting with an unfamiliar male voice. "Hey Lily," Ida said, her voice giggling. "How's it going?" "Hey, girl," Lily replied. "Did you leave with that guy you were dancing with?" "Yep, we're heading back to your place for some alone time. Hope you don't mind if we use the spare bedroom for an hour or so." "Not at all, Han," Lily answered breezily. "I'll probably be there soon with his friend. We'll have some fun too." The casual way they discussed their plans disgusted me, but I stayed focused. Activating the camera on Ida's phone, I managed to get a brief look at the guy she was with. Dark-haired, around 30, and noticeably shorter than me. Not much to write home about. Once they arrived at Lily's, I turned the camera and microphone back on, but I needed her phone in the same room for good audio. By sheer luck, she carried it into the bedroom and left it on the nightstand, giving the camera a clear view of most of the bed. I recorded enough to confirm what was happening, then minimized the window and let the recording continue. Watching my wife betray me was gut-wrenching, but at that moment, I resolved not to sit around feeling sorry for myself. If she wanted to destroy our marriage, fine, but I wasn't going to be her doormat. They say what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Well, I had my own plans. The weekend came and went. Ida didn't bother coming home, staying at Lily's instead. I busied myself with house projects and worked on restoring my 1972 pickup, an old truck I'd been fixing up for years. By the time Monday rolled around, I'd installed a new 350 engine, replaced the transmission, and finished the fuel and vacuum lines. Work helped me stay distracted during the week, and I avoided all communication with Ida. By Friday evening, my truck was gleaming and ready for a spin. After a long shower, a shave, and a splash of cologne, I got dressed. Dark jeans, a black button-up shirt, and my rattlesnake leather cowboy boots. The plan? A good steak dinner to start the night, followed by a little surprise for Ida. The T-bone steak, baked potato, and veggies at the steakhouse were fantastic. I finished the meal, checked Ida's GPS, and confirmed she and Lily were already at the club. Time to put my plan into action. Smiling, I parked a few spots away from Ida's car. She appeared to be the designated driver tonight, which made things even better. I walked into the club and quickly spotted Lily. Ida was off dancing with some guy, so I approached Lily with a drink in hand. "Lily, I didn't expect to see you here," I said, feigning surprise. "James?" she asked nervously. "What are you doing here?" "Probably the same thing you are," I replied casually. Since Ida moved out, I figured I'd check out this club and have some fun. "Want to dance?" Her hesitation gave way to a mischievous grin. "Of course. I'd love to." We danced through 3 upbeat songs, and when a slow one started, I pulled her close. Halfway through, I saw Ida spot us. Her expression shifted from shock to anger. She stormed off the dance floor as Lily pressed closer to me, her grin widening. By the time the song ended, I was more than ready to escalate things. This was just the beginning of my revenge. I casually shrugged and replied, "Decided to check out the club and have a fun evening. Drinks? Dancing? The usual. Or is it okay for you but not for me? Because that would be pretty hypocritical." Without waiting for a response, I turned back to Lily and struck up a conversation, deliberately ignoring Ida, who sat fuming at the table. I didn't need to glance her way to know she was stewing. The tension in the air was unmistakable. It didn't take long for her to start retaliating, likely hoping to make me jealous. She danced with every guy who approached her, grinding on them and moving as flirtatiously as possible. I smirked to myself and stayed focused on monopolizing Lily's attention. Every time another guy tried to ask Lily for a dance, I intercepted, pulling her to the dance floor before they could even reach the table. Eventually, they gave up. It was clear we were together for the night. After a couple of hours, I decided it was time to escalate things. Ida was still on the dance floor, and Lily was more than willing. She leaned in close, her smile wicked, and let her legs part slightly under the table as my hand slid up her thigh. No panties, as expected. She rubbed against me, her fingers pressing over my jeans. "Your place or mine?" I whispered into her ear, my lips brushing her skin. "Ida will be there soon," she replied, her breath catching. "Does that matter? She's got her own room, doesn't she?" I murmured, pressing a kiss to the curve of her neck. "To hell with it," she answered, her voice husky. "She can figure it out. Let's go." The drive to Lily's place was electric. I kept her in suspense, running my hand over her thigh and teasing her as I drove. By the time we got to her door, she was practically dragging me inside. Her dress hit the floor the moment the door closed. Lily was, let's just say, very experienced. I made sure to use protection. I couldn't imagine being with her without it. As much as I might have been motivated by revenge, I wasn't about to take unnecessary risks. We'd barely finished when I heard the front door slam. Lily didn't seem to notice. She was too caught up in the moment. Besides, she's loud during sex. The thin wall between her bedroom and Ida's only made it more satisfying. As we finally collapsed from exhaustion around 2 a.m., I couldn't help but smirk. Triple bonus. Ida had to hear every minute of it. The next morning, Lily woke me up in a rather enthusiastic way, and another condom was put to good use. Let's just say she knew how to keep things interesting. But, for the record, I wasn't about to go out of my way to pleasure her. With Lily's history, there's no telling what risks might have come with that. Sure, I enjoy pleasing a woman, but not at the cost of my health. Protection was non-negotiable. Breakfast was awkward, to say the least. Ida was already in the kitchen when I walked in. Her glare could have cut glass. "Coffee?" she asked, a slight smirk tugging at her lips. "I'm good. I'll make it myself," I replied, grabbing a clean mug. Who knows what she might have done to a cup she'd prepared for me. I filled my mug from the Keurig and kept my distance. Ida and Lily exchanged a few words, but I kept the conversation minimal. At some point, Ida must have realized Lily and I had been together. Her reaction? Pure rage. She ranted so much that the guy she'd brought home bolted for the door. Watching her glare daggers at me during breakfast was a bonus I hadn't anticipated. I'll admit, I can be a real jerk when properly motivated, and this situation certainly qualified. Over the following weeks, I reached out to several of Ida's colleagues, many of whom were attractive and single. I'd met them at company events and had their contact information. Some were hesitant at first, since Ida and I were technically still married, but her openness about her adventures helped smooth things over. It wasn't long before I was dating Ida's friends and colleagues. I took them out for drinks, dinners, and dancing, often showing up at places where I knew Ida would be, thanks to the GPS tracker still installed on her phone. Her frustration was palpable, and I reveled in it. Back at the office, my antics didn't go unnoticed. Tension between Ida and her colleagues grew with every date I went on, and the friction between her and Lily reached new heights. Listening to their conversations through the tracker was like tuning into a soap opera. "This isn't how it was supposed to work," Ida complained during one of their heated discussions. "What do you mean?" Lily asked. "He was supposed to wait for me while I sowed my wild oats, then welcome me back so we could start our family. He wasn't supposed to be dating and sleeping with other women." Lily snorted. "Yeah, I didn't see that coming either. So what now?" "Well, I've had my fun, but none of these guys compare to James. Our anniversary is coming up, and we plan to start trying for a baby that night. I'm going back to him." Lily, ever the troublemaker, couldn't resist. "So, you're mad I slept with him?" "Damn right I am. You're my best friend. You could have shown a little respect." Lily rolled her eyes. "Please." He made the first move. "Besides, it's not like I'm seeing him again." I smiled as I listened to their bickering. Ida had no idea what I had planned for our anniversary. She called me later, insisting she was ready to come home. I played along, telling her I'd been working on something special and that she should wait until our anniversary to see it. She seemed to assume I was preparing a nursery for a baby. I never confirmed it but didn't correct her either. When the big day arrived, the stage was set for a night Ida would never forget. The pool I'd installed over the past 2 months sparkled in the evening light, and the barbecue and pool party were in full swing. Friends, family, and a few surprises were all waiting. The clock read 6 p.m. and I was ready. Ida had no idea what was coming next. The doorbell rang right on time, just as I'd instructed Ida to arrive. She must have noticed all the cars parked out front and realized there was a party in full swing. Still, her surprise was evident as she walked in, carrying her suitcases. "All right, everyone, the guest of honor has arrived," I announced, grinning as the room turned its attention to Ida. "James, what's going on?" she asked, her tone a mix of confusion and hope. "I thought we'd be going out for a quiet, romantic dinner tonight." "Oh no, tonight's a big celebration," I replied. "I wanted all our family and friends here to join in." "Oh, okay, honey," she said hesitantly. This just caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting anything like this. "Set your suitcases here for now," I said, gesturing to the side. "We'll take care of them later. You've arrived just in time for dinner, and as the guest of honor, you and I will be first in line." It didn't take long for Ida to get into the spirit of things. She mingled, laughed, and seemed to forget the tension of the past few months. We ate, drank, and shared stories as if nothing had happened. The backyard was lit beautifully, and Ida was especially impressed by the new pool and other renovations. She hinted a few times that she'd like to see the upstairs, clearly holding on to the idea that I turned one of the bedrooms into a nursery. I played along, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the truth. Finally, I decided it was time. Tapping a glass to get everyone's attention, I called out, "May I have everyone's attention, please?" I have a few announcements to make on this very special day. The music was turned off, and the chatter died down as everyone gathered closer. Thank you all for coming, I continued. Today is not just any day. Today marks a new chapter in my life. Ida, could you come up here with me? Ida joined me, smiling as she stood by my side. First of all, I began, I want everyone to know that yesterday was my last day at my job. Only my former boss knew about this, as I'd given him a month's notice and explained my plans. I'm starting my own consulting company, which will give me the freedom to spend more time with my family. Ida beamed at my emphasis on the word family, clearly interpreting it as a hopeful sign. And as you all know, I continued, today is our 5th wedding anniversary. What most of you don't know is that Ida and I had planned to start a family on this day. To honor that milestone, I have a very special anniversary gift for her. I took a step to the side and nodded toward a red-haired woman standing at the edge of the crowd. She returned the nod and stepped forward, holding a stack of papers. Ida Bader, the woman said firmly. You've been served. The room went silent, save for a gasp from Ida. As I was saying, I continued, addressing the crowd. 2 months ago, Ida informed me that she planned to date and sleep with other men. She didn't ask for my agreement, nor did she consider my feelings. She simply declared that this was happening and left me with no choice in the matter. For the past 2 months, she's been living with her friend and bringing different men home. This is something I simply cannot and will not tolerate. Ida's face turned red, her mouth opening and closing as if trying to find words. Now, let me be clear, I said. Yes, I started dating other women, but I only did so after Ida had already broken her vows. For your actions, Ida, I am giving you a divorce so you can live however you wish, just not with me. I turned to the crowd again. You've all seen the pool and the other updates I've made to the house. What you haven't seen are the changes upstairs. I repainted the master bedroom and upgraded the bathroom with a spacious shower and a jacuzzi. I also combined 2 smaller bedrooms into 1 larger room, complete with its own private bath. These changes were made for a very specific reason. At that moment, the red-haired woman returned, this time with a young girl who looked to be about 10 years old. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Emma Callahan, my attorney, and her daughter, Simone, I said, gesturing toward them. Tara is a single mother whom I met 2 months ago, shortly after Ida began her adventures. While Tara and I haven't officially started dating, we've grown very close, and we both feel there's something special between us. Simone and I also get along wonderfully. Once the divorce is finalized, Tara and Simone will be moving in with me. Turning back to Ida, I concluded, so, as for your suitcases, you can take them back to your car. You won't be staying here. I told you I wouldn't tolerate this, and you destroyed our marriage anyway. Chaos erupted. Ida sobbed uncontrollably as her family shouted and yelled. Many of the guests left quickly, while my family sat in stunned silence. Tara and Simone quietly excused themselves, disappearing upstairs to give me space to handle the fallout. I admit, involving Tara and Simone in this public spectacle might not have been the best choice. But I was driven by anger. Ida's betrayal had killed my love for her, leaving only hatred in its place. I wanted her to feel the same pain and loss she'd inflicted on me. Could I have handled it differently? Probably. But at the time, I wanted everyone to know who had destroyed our marriage and why. Ida moved back in with Lily, but their arrangement only lasted 2 weeks before they were at each other's throats. She eventually found her own apartment. We don't speak when we cross paths around town. Her expressions shift between sadness and anger, depending on her mood. I've heard she left her job because the tension from my dating her colleagues became unbearable. As for Tara, we took things slow, waiting until the divorce was finalized before officially starting our relationship. A year later, we got married, and another year after that, we ran into Ida at a street fair. When she saw Tara's 6-month pregnant belly, she turned and fled, crying. Thank you for listening to my story. Until next time, take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.